to bring in writers from the MFA program to read their work. And so we have three amazing writers today who are sharing their work. First, we'll hear from Nen Ramirez, followed by Katrina, is it Yeager? Mm-hmm. Katrina Yeager. We'll take a short break after that, and then we'll hear from Olivia Fantini. They'll each read for about 10 minutes, and then that's it. I think that's all I got to say. Oh, I guess one more thing. Jordan Young is the one who usually organizes this. She asked me to fill in. So if you heard about this event from her, that's all her doing. I stepped in like last minute to kind of fill in for her. She unfortunately couldn't make it, but we definitely owe a lot to her to making this event work and run and kind of doing the advertising and coordinating for the most part. I'm stealing all the glory. Yeah. So without further ado, I think that's all I gotta say. Nen G. Ramirez is a Chicanx poet from Adrian, Michigan. Their chapbook, All Women Are Born Wailing, won the 2022 Acentos Book Prize and will be published through Nomadic Press in April 2023. The work can be found in Poetry Magazine, Work, Electric Literature, Split Lip Magazine, and elsewhere. Incredible. Yeah.
Hey, what's up? Let me. Okay. Hi, I'm Nen. So I'm publishing a book. And like one of the big things that I talk about in it is like the crazy Latina lover stereotype. So that's what these next couple poems are going to be about. So the first one is called Examples of the Crazy Latina. 1. My aunt dragging her husband's mistress across a bar floor by her hair. 2. My mother using other women's panties to kindle a fire in her boyfriend's kitchen sink. 3. My mother throwing hot coffee at my stepfather after he called my older sister a bitch. 4. My mother pushing my stepfather down the stairs when he cornered her, fist raised. 5. My younger sister skipping school because some days she can't stand the sun. 6. My older sister swearing she's been dead for 3 days. 7. Me Googling the number of calories in bleach. This next one's called In the Cafe, My Ex Says He Doesn't Have a Type. I know she had a habit of lying in the street, and he fell in love with her in the headlights of a semi-truck that didn't kill her but could have if she decided the game was over. He says she was fucking crazy. I say I used to play the same game, and he says, trust me, you aren't like her. I don't say that I understood the pleasure of wheels rattling my chest and feeling the weak organ that cares jerk awake. He says he doesn't know if he'll ever understand her. I don't talk about my suspicion that she and I lived the same life, origamied ourselves into the same polite shapes to seduce the white boy with clean sneakers and baby fat, because there are as many bland boys looking for manic pixie dream girls as pill-bitter girls looking for someone to miss and eulogize them. I ask, how was the funeral? He says he wouldn't know. He didn't have the tears or the words. So I say, take mine. I kept them warm. You leaving toward dumb tooth from gum. You dying, ripped blood clot from socket. Now I am all exposed nerve. You taught me to feel, and now I'll never unlearn. Next one is called My Baby Sister. Hey, Cece. My baby sister asks me what withdrawal means. It means I can cry on command because I'm more or less always pressing my back to the door. And also that Lexapro was a good lover that I can no longer afford. It means trying to suppress suicidal fantasies like church coughs. It means day-old tortillas sitting on the stove, fossilizing, body feeling like some freezer-burnt Wednesday, microwave bloated, reheated, gooey. It means lucky sweater every day, and ice water meets empty stomach. It means lately I'm all guts. This one is called My Mother Comes to Visitation Hours. It's kind of gross. You told me once that when you worked at Burger King, somebody puked on the bathroom mirror, And the worst part of cleaning it up was seeing the chunks speckle your own reflected face. The way you look at me in the psych ward makes me think of this. Yeah. This one is okay. So this is called "In My Country," and it's in response to this one quote from Sofia Vergara, who like in an interview she said, because she's from Colombia, she said like, "In my country, all women are bipolar, and like I think it's better that way." So this is called "In My Country." The streets are lined with gold plated hoops tossed aside the night before. The sea shimmers like glass shattered out of windshields. Here, acrylics only come stiletto. Mamacitas only come mercurial. In my country, there is no night without 1,000 slashed tires, and there is no morning without deflated women asking you to fill them. Where I'm from, we have no need for sun or moon because women are always burning some cabron shit in some backyard. The women burn and beg to be held, but don't all white boys have a bit of a pyromaniac streak? And don't we make you feel brave? And don't you think it's better that way? This next one has a bit longer of a preamble. So it's called Lorena Bobbitt as Koyoshauki. So in Aztec mythology, Koyoshauki is the moon goddess, and the way that she became the moon goddess was she was murdered by her brother, the god of war. And then when he murdered her, he like totally just butchered, dismembered her body, and kicked her head up into the sky, and it stayed there, and that's how she became the moon. And so like a lot of Latina critical feminism theorists, like they point to that moment as like the seed of the patriarchy, machismo, and like violence towards women in Mexican culture, and like think of it as a framework for how to think of like putting oneself back together after like generations of trauma and violence. Second part of that is if you don't know who Lorena Bobbitt is, she's an Ecuadorian immigrant who was married to a real abusive piece of shit. And in the late 80s, she cut off her abusive husband's penis. And in the trial, that was like really, really highly publicized. Like the media really downplayed the abuse and really like leaned into portraying her as that like violent, crazy Latina lover stereotype. So this is called Lorena Bobbitt as Koyoshauki. If we are to speak of the severing, to remember the dis and remembering, let it be of Lorena, every piece of her made separate and scattered, the acetone, the spandex, the fridge light. Let us revision her full as the moon, because when he held her by the wrists over the balcony, she was quiet inside, knowing if he let go, she'd float away, whole, untouched by anything but sky. It's the last one, and it's like tangentially related like to the other ones, but it's fun to read, so I'm gonna read it. It's called Moving In. I don't mean to cause alarm, but I think there's an alligator in the basement. I tell my mother on our first day spent scrubbing what was once our home, then her ex-husband's, and now ours again. So my mother creeps down creaking stairs, shines iPhone flashlight into the dark cavity of a house that once again felt haunted. Yes, he moved in a different woman, with new kids who resented him in new ways, left the carpet with new stains. She takes a good long look when she finds it in the corner, and texts the man who once loved her, "Did you lose a cat?" He says a kitten ran away, but that was years ago. She lifts the thing by its rigid tail, mummified, yellow, scaled, and 2 feet long at least. This isn't a kitten anymore. And her heart chills at the thought of the man she loved before. She learned to prepare liver for him, started wearing seatbelts even. shedding himself of us, all the skin she knew turning to dust, how he lived this life with his family of strangers, slamming doors, breaking dishes, burning dinner, oblivious to the kitten, trapped, too weak to scratch in the dark, turning into cat and then corpse and now alligator. And the man thought it was free, probably even happy, running the streets and fucking in parking lots, if he ever really thought of it at all. And that's the end.
Thank you, Nan. Our next reader is Kachina Yeager. Kachina is a Bidawak Dakota poet from Prairie Island Indian Community. I practiced that before and I didn't nail it. From Minnesota, Makoche. You can find them either working on their MFA at the University of Minnesota or knee deep in the Mississippi River muck. Kachina.
Okay, hello. So this is my first time reading, so everybody is actually legally obligated to be really nice to me. I'm going to start with a poem that I wrote last year. It's part of a series of poems I wrote in like an epistolary style to ancestral grandmothers. It's called Ake Pitanitu. The collection kind of goes through 2 seasons of weather. So Ake Pitanitu is fall again. Dry leaves clatter across the yard, a hymnal. Red clings to orange, clings to yellow, reminds me that life wants to stick, just like you did. Arms leaden, hands shaking from yesterday's effort, our day spent carving knocking sticks, preparing to gather steam from the lake. I wonder if I'll see you there, reflected in my face when I look in the waters below the canoe, leaning out to bend the stalk tenderly, careful to balance just right, leaving the grains that stubbornly cling so that they may reseed the next generation. Perhaps we are descended from the stubborn grains, the ones that refuse to leave, falling into the water where we must sink into darkness to grow into something strong enough to feed the people. Thank you. This next one is actually it's a work in progress. So it's called Self-Portraiture in a 5x5. Darkness grabs the steering wheel, barrels through every roadblock. Ahead of the curve is just another outside. My lineage's exhaust and aerosol, rooted in land where water reflects sky reflects us. The mirror turned out a closet door, open to yet another outside. What lurks in the void of bottomless imagining? A body and brain not quite a matching pair. Clattering plastic ribcage defenses backed by billowing peach ruffle weaponry. In soil, water passes by bone before returning to clouds. Buried alive in a glass coffin but stored in the hall closet for later. There's something I can't name in the shadows. Is a present wrapped in othering truly a gift? Smile big, open throttle. Who needs God when you've been held by the tenderness of 2 waters greeting? Out of the intangible, I spun myself a story so solid its opaqueness became an obstruction. My subconscious grinds glass into glimmering shades, glosses them onto my eyelids each night, our inner and outer meant to embrace or collide. Perform, be one with the machine. In Dakotiopi, we say we cha to prefix compounds granting personhood or animacy. We call the stars we champi. Consider not knowing the thrum of aliveness in your bones for 2 decades. The colonizer in my head is scared of the unknown, the uncontrollable, but time is just another body. Create authorial distance. The eye becomes a role. Make sure to cast a winner. Hey, butthead, the universe is right below your feet. Say thank you. I want to touch the seam where softness meets solidity and linger there. This one I wrote in workshops, so some of you have already heard it. And I wrote it after reading Tommy Pico, so that influence is definitely there. It's called On Invasive Species. Yeah, I'd like to call the anti-hotline to report a suspicious presence. but I don't know what their version of 911 would be. Maybe 411 since they always seem to have it. Yeah, the white idling van says animal care and control on the side. Yeah, I know, them two words together don't make any sense. Care and control. City of, enter anglicized name here. Who decides what animal is? Care for the lost doggies, those poor mistreated res hounds. Control for vermin. I sat under Hennepin Avenue long enough to see pigeons decide it was safe to fly down and drink from the litter-lined riverbank. Isn't it funny, but not funny haha, funny colonial irony, how doves get released at weddings, bring olive branches to biblical men whose names I just don't give a fuck enough to remember, yet their cousins, their blood relatives, pigeons, they get labeled rats of the sky, vermin. I wish I could say I'm having a peaceful moment down here, but honesty is a Dakota value, and Department of River Care and Control is currently lugging a big-ass bulldozer on a big-ass barge to presumably do work on the big-ass bridge not even half a mile from the one I'm currently under. I'm just fucking around. There's no Department of River Care and Control, just control, containment. Formally, they go by Army Corps of Engineers or Department of Interior or whatever other fuckery of language will create enough distance to wash their hands of responsibility. Isn't it funny we say land back? Because I want water back too. When I search Asian carp Mississippi River, Google tells me that people also ask, what did Asian carp do to the Mississippi River? And how many Asian carp are in the Mississippi River? But no one asks, how did Asian carp get into the Mississippi River? Displacement is such a funny mofo, it could probably even make those real rugged aunties crack a smile. InvasiveCarp.us says that Asian carp were originally brought to the southern U.S. to help aquaculture and wastewater treatment plants keep retaining ponds clean, but ended up in the river system due to flooding or accidental release. Carp, helper turned vermin. Funny how when they, capital T, sent the church to the res to help the Indians keep clean of their savage ways, they flooded themselves into our communities and families, but the gospel never got reclassified vermin. Funny how my ancestors didn't need wastewater treatment plants or fucking aquaculture. Funny how savages knew not to shit in the water. They knew that like any tired parent, the river and the lakes need a moment to collect themselves after providing hella fish for us human children. Knew how to not throw a tantrum when the water didn't cough up more and more and more walleye. Weird how the displaced species get titled vermin, but I sure as hell have never felt pestered quite the way I have by Euro-America colonialism. My new pigeon acquaintances cut their watering hole moment short as the thundering of a teeny boat motor rip-roars under the bridge. The two on board look goofy as hell in their bright yellow hard hats. Like what? Are you scared the sky is gonna fall on you? 'Cause shit, that scares me. But my hat is the permeable ancestral knowledge rather than flimsy, loud yellow plastic. But y'all do what y'all gotta do. I almost say to the now gone dove cousins that it's weird that boat didn't cause any wake, what with how fast it was going. The delayed waves answered by beating up the shore, yelling Skoden and Studis at the rocks, or maybe at me since I'm sitting right on top. By the time the waves make it all the way to me, they've lost most of their fight. The backup that was the boat has been out of view for at least 40 seconds or more. Couldn't be bothered to watch the water versus shore showdown it started, I guess. Weird how much that high-pitched boat whir sounds like, my ancestors weren't here yet, or, well, it's not like I was around. Open your mouths again. I just want to see how many waves tumble out. Two more. This one is a little bit dark in its matter. So, I don't even know where to start with this. Like, if you don't know, and you live in Minnesota, I humbly encourage you, since you're in a bookstore, to find a book about it. But in 1862 was the Dakota War. Basically, treaties contained us to like a 10-mile stretch of land along the Minnesota River that was not very arable. We couldn't hunt or gather our traditional foods. And so, like, we were starving to death is what was happening. And basically it was starve to death or fight back. And so that's where we were. And as punishment for fighting in this war, originally 313, I think, Dakota men were sentenced to be hung the day after Christmas. And in reality, what ended up happening was President Lincoln was like, that's a depressing number of people to kill right after Christmas. And so it was whittled down to 38. And their names were written down in both Dakota and a very like bastardized English translation. So this poem takes that English translation and turns their names into a poem. So this is called 38. Iron forbids dwelling upon earth, stands clothed in scarlet, spirit broken, rattling to pieces. White grandfather comes first, the sun with his horn comes second, third a blower. Little man, wind does not flee, wind stands on a cloud, thunder comes back prepared to shoot. Near the woods, otter stands tinkling, Frenchman herd walks clothed in white, makes red his family name, makes scarlet his son. Face the returning, parent the coming people. To grow, grandfather first cut the tip, then his son. Mixed blood, the family name, walks on me. Leaf, maker of a rattling noise. Dog with nose and tail, walker, he walks. Hawk, a singer, an owl hears, voice, a runner. Upon the great unknown, the people make meaning. This last one is my favorite. It's called Kapemini, which translates to like a twisting or a warping, but it's also used in reference to like a sky-earth dichotomy of like as above, so below, in the sense of like the way we mapped our existence based on the sky. Okay. Kapemini. Ginkgo peeks through my bedroom window, makes eye contact with not yet mother, whispers to oak, their room is a lake. Oak peers through their own reflection, says no, that's a river. Together they pose like cottonwood, bending towards rushing water. Neither river nor lake, but confluence. Soft silt bottom spills into rust. Sand bridges, swirls. Water alchemizes into portal. Kapemni. Trees gasp, two-toned leaves shaken, stirred. Child ghost after child ghost emerges, tuck themselves in under my sheets, float laundry basket boats to shores of book islands, peel poems from pages to build home inside of. Not yet mother finds the child ghosts that wear her face, different shades, holds their hands, asks, want to paint a new world with me? Not yet mother pulls pigments from laughter, slathers shades of play onto stretched canvas, skin aged under prayer after prayer. Paintbrushes plucked from piles of braids that whisper, let me rest in this new world, let me have roots. Ginkgo and oak lean too far, splash into mere selves, wake up among stars.
Oh, let's hear it one more time for our first two readers.
Yeah.
And let's take a 7-minute break and come back. Olivia grew up in Massachusetts and spent 6 years working in public schools as an English language development teacher. She's currently an MFA candidate in fiction at the University of Minnesota, where she was awarded the Gazelle Fellowship. Her short story, At the Airport, won Epiphany Literary Journal's 2021 Breakout Writers Prize. Her short story, Experimental Trials, received third place from the 2021 Marguerite McGlynn Prize for Fiction from Philadelphia Stories. And her fictions also appeared in Tri-Quarterly and So to Speak. She's currently at work on a novel and a memoir, and I hear that we're hearing from the memoir tonight, so I'm so excited. Olivia.
Hello. Can you all hear me okay? All right, so I'm a fiction writer mostly, but I took a class in the MFA to broaden my horizons, and then I wrote a memoir by accident and was like, what is this terrifying genre in which you tell people all of your secrets? So I'm tiptoeing into the waters of what it looks like to think about publishing that work. I had my first excerpt of the memoir published over the summer, which is what I'm going to read from today. And then if that experience is terrifying, I will never publish any more nonfiction again. So this is just the beginning of an essay about that place where relationships go to be tested, IKEA. I'm 25. Mei Lee and I are in a bright white IKEA showroom. Her hair is long and dark brown, streaked with silver. She started growing gray when she was 9. She started dyeing her hair in high school. I started dyeing her hair for her the 3rd time we got together, when I knew I loved her but waited to say it so I didn't scare her away. We are in the kitchen section surrounded by islands. Small matte green carts, thin wooden wine racks, shiny stainless steel double-deckers on wheels. We have just driven halfway across the country twice, Providence to Denver, first in her car, then in mine. We have just rented our first apartment, and inside there is 1 mattress and not 2. We are doing the damn thing, and I have never done the damn thing before. I was 24, coming home from visiting a friend on Fire Island, when I discovered a splinter in my toe. I hobbled the 2 blocks to Mei Lee's apartment and lay on her couch with my bare foot in the air. I hugged a pillow while she lit a match to sterilize the needle. The splinter was in deep. "This is probably going to hurt," she said. "Okay, I'm ready." But it didn't. Her fingers moved with careful tenderness. There is an unexpected vulnerability in this part of the body, in presenting to someone else the bottom of your foot, its flesh and callus. We were just friends at this point. Friends who had dated, then broken up, then hooked up, then broken up again. Friends who were trying to be friends. She removed the splinter and squeezed Neosporin onto a Band-Aid, gently wrapping it around my toe. I didn't want to leave, but I'd gotten what I came for. Walking home, I tried to think up excuses to see her. It wasn't the same thing I had felt before. This pull wasn't the raw volatility, the electric undertow, and the dizzying descent, air bubbles leaving my mouth one by one. It was different this time. There was a steadiness in her, bone deep, something elemental that I was already anchored to. We were connected, not in the way of buzzing electrical wires, not in a way subject to shocks and power outages. This was immovable, something which would not be destroyed by storms. In the brightly lit showroom, we stand in front of a large white kitchen island with an oak butcher block top, 2 stainless steel shelves, and an overhang where 2 stools tuck in. The new apartment has shit for counter space. We've been talking about lusting after a kitchen island for the last 3 weeks, and this one is perfect. Beautiful, utilitarian, glowing with domestic bliss beneath the showroom's golden lights. It is $400. It makes me feel afraid. I suggest we keep looking on Craigslist for something cheaper. She doesn't want something crappy. I say, "You can get really nice stuff on there." She says, "I'm 27. She doesn't say she wants to start building a life with me, investing in that life, but it's in her warm brown eyes and the crook of her dark eyebrows, and the way she looks at me in the car when we stop at traffic lights. Before now, my furniture was gifted or thrifted. I slept on air mattresses the first few months out of college. Over the last 3 years, I bought 1 piece of furniture new, a papasan chair with a plush navy cushion on sale for $100 at Pier 1. I shoved it into my friend's Honda Fit so I wouldn't have to pay for shipping. I have always been living in preparation for my starving artist future, even as my savings sat accumulating interest year after year. Now here is this island, and it means something. I was 23. Mei Lee and I sat in my car. The interior was fabric and the cup holder was clean. We were coming back from the beach. There was sand in the mats at our feet. The afternoon grayed into evening around us, and I turned to her and said, "I just want..." My bathing suit bottoms were still wet. The salt water contracted on my skin as it dried. I had said this to her in the spring, but now I said it again. I told her for at least the 2nd time that I didn't love her, that I was not falling in love with her, and that I didn't think I ever would. I didn't see us having a future. There was pain in her eyes, an instinctual retreat. "I don't want to hurt you," I said. "I'm just trying to be honest." She reached for the handle, but the door was locked. She pulled, but it didn't open. Maybe then she made a sound in her throat and refused to meet my eyes. I know you don't need to keep telling me. I'm sorry, I just feel, I considered dropping it, but I needed to be clear. I owed her that. It seems like you're falling in love with me, I said quietly. Stop trying to tell me what I'm feeling. I'm not falling in love with you. She stared at the grime-streaked front windshield. I was out of wiper fluid. I nodded. I told myself to get off my high horse, to stop imagining I knew her better than she knew herself. A hookup is a hookup is a hookup. But I felt her falling. I needed to warn her. The neighbors had a tree removed this fall. It was a tall pine, towering 20 feet above the roof. They took it down in under an hour. 3 men. The first, in a red shirt and safety helmet, climbed into the basket of the cherry picker with a chainsaw. It took him a few pulls to get the chainsaw started. He began with the bottommost branches and worked his way up. Buzz, drop, silence. Buzz, drop, silence. The two below gathered the fallen arms. The man in the cherry picker moved quickly, and the train became a pole with small white knots where branches once reached. Then he worked his way back down, sawing off the trunk in 4-foot increments, biting halfway through one side, then the rest of the way through the other. He snapped the final fibers of the trunk with the gloves of his hands. The arm of the cherry picker lowered and lowered and lowered until there was only a length of tree as tall as a woman, and then there was nothing. They climbed into the truck and drove away. Sometimes I think this is what happened to me. It's not. The metaphor is inaccurate. The truth is more infected. When I tried to write about the woman who came before Mei Li, I began to grind my teeth in my sleep. I didn't bleed for months. I broke a vibrator. I couldn't get through a morning of writing without shitting every hour. This is the problem with remembering. Its warming hot thaws what time froze solid. This is the cryogenic magic of memory, how it makes the corpse finger move, how the blood of the past threatens to stain the present. I was 20 when the woman who came before said, or maybe I only thought, that if I kept waiting and giving and lying, if I kept trespassing against myself, then everything would be okay. She would come out of the closet and her depression would vanish. We would stop driving 3 towns over to have a date away from prying eyes, stop sharing 2 long silent glances through the sneeze shield in the cafeteria during her work study. She would stop leaving anonymous sunflowers in my mailbox, too afraid to sign a note, stop pulling her hand out of mine on damp evening sidewalks the moment another person came into sight, stop saying sex between 2 women was a sin, stop yelling at me late at night in empty basement laundry rooms. Her red-rimmed eyes sharp with fear, bottomless and untouchable. Stop breaking up with me and apologizing the next day and saying she didn't mean it. If I could let her kiss me and scream at me, love me and blame me, abandon me and return to me again and again without telling anyone, then eventually she would come out and we would be happy. How does the ending color the middle? Even when I was sobbing and sleep deprived and finally admitted to myself that I was unhappy, part of me still believed I would marry this woman. Part of me was already telling this story to our grandchildren for their 6th grade history project. How Grandma and Nanny had to lie and hide their relationship before the Supreme Court ruling. Back when people had to fight to love each other, I could see them sitting in a circle at my feet. I could hear myself say, "You have to be brave for love." Back then we didn't have a choice. I had a choice. I couldn't see it. I was too far under to remember what it felt like not to have to hold my breath. What happens if we break up? I asked Mei Li, not taking my eyes off the kitchen island. I know I'm not supposed to say this. I know I'm not supposed to have an emergency escape plan, but I do. I love Mei Li. I want this to work. I moved far away from everything for her. Recently, after a fight, still tear wet, I said, "Let's never break up." Only after I said it did I think about what it meant. Still, part of me needs to know where the door handle is at my back. Around us, kids weave between the furniture. A dark-haired couple nods approvingly at a gold and glass drinks cart. The man crouches down to get a closer look. My mouth has gone dry. Why would we break up? She laughs, and underneath the laugh is a little sandpaper heart. I laugh too. I know, but I just want to know. My chest feels tight. It's a lot of money. It's a big kitchen island. It's not going to fit in every apartment. I was 20 and splintering. When the woman who came before left me for another woman and immediately came out, I thought everything must have been my fault. The trick of emotional abuse is how it confuses the truth. I blamed myself for my own destruction. If she was the chainsaw, I was the cherry picker, raising her up, holding her steady as she cut me down. I had let this happen to myself. I had tried so hard. I had been so certain. After, I was certain of nothing. I pressed a hand to the mouth of my intuition and kept it there. I was 22. It was the first snow day during my first year teaching. A few months after our first breakup, Maylee texted me. I know you don't have time for a real relationship. What if we just hook up? I danced around my second floor living room, snow falling past the large windows. I don't know if I want her. I couldn't decide. I decided if I didn't know, that meant I didn't. Any feeling which was unclear enough to be unknown must be dismissible. I texted back, I don't want to complicate things. That weekend we went bowling. Her, me, and my tall roommate and my short roommate, who both loved her. We went to a bowling alley that had a bar and a disco ball. It still had that bowling alley smell, the ghost of every bit of food that had ever been crushed into the red and tan carpet. But the music was good, and attractive single people stood in the dark, holding drinks in real glasses. Getting dressed that evening, I made myself put on the too big lumberjack flannel I bought in the men's department of Gap several years ago. I did this so I wouldn't flirt with her by accident, so I wouldn't go home with her. I put my hair up in an ugly bun. At the bowling alley, my short roommate ordered White Russians, and my tall roommate sprinted to the arcade. He found his favorite game and started playing. Try it, he crowed after his turn was over. I'd never been one for arcade games, but I stepped up and listened to him explain when to hit the buttons. The big screen lit up and sang its cyclical carnival song. The game began, and I died immediately. My cheeks felt hot. I didn't know whether to pout or swear. I stepped back awkwardly and waved his hand away when he brandished a token for me to try again. Maylee stepped up, the carnival song played, and she too died immediately, but she didn't pout or swear. A laugh of surprise erupted from her mouth. She actually slapped her knee like someone in a movie. She wheezed, she was laughing so hard. Did you see that? She asked me and my roommate. She shook with mirth. Because she was laughing so hard, we couldn't help but laugh too. Okay, let me try again, she said, reaching for the soda cup full of tokens. Maylee is an excellent bowler. I didn't know before tonight. It surprised me. I felt a thrill of pleasure watching her bring the ball up to her chin, eyes still with concentration, the sweep of her arm, the cross of her right leg behind her left, the way the ball spun back even as it glided forward. She wore American flag socks and their stars and stripes stuck out of her bowling shoes. Confident socks. My tall roommate, who was also my gay roommate, touched her often, joked with her, lay a hand on her arm as he laughed at her jokes. I watched, feeling jealous, knowing I had no right to be. After bowling a second frame, I went to the bathroom. It was dark and ugly and unclean, and I didn't pee. I unbuttoned the bottom 3 buttons over the overlarge man shirt and tied it at my waist like a Britney Spears music video. I pulled out my ugly bun and fluffed my crinkled hair. I pulled up my jeans high on my hips and tried to be more beautiful. When I saw Maylee going to the snack bar, I went after her. I asked her to come over tonight. The saliva in my mouth had grown thick and sticky. Her eyes were quiet and patient. She asked what had changed. What had changed? I didn't want her, and then I did. I didn't know, and then I knew. You're not allowed to say that. I had to say something, so I said, I've been hurt really badly before. At first, I thought I was just saying it to give her an answer, to make her stop asking, but then I said, I'm so scared. And my voice quivered. I thought I might burst into tears right there by the snack bar and the baskets of fried food and the Coca-Cola poster and the light-up slushy sign. She didn't miss the moment. She brought her hand to my cheek and met my eyes. She said, I won't hurt you. I promise. Now she looks away when the man who is fiddling with the wheel locks on the drink cart. She pauses. What do you want to do if we break up? Who's going to keep the kitchen island? Do you want to keep it? No, I don't think so. Okay, I'll keep it. She's laughing again, that same angry hurt laugh that she throws like a tarp to cover what lies beneath. I have broken up with her twice before in a different life. This time is new. This time I'm staying. Still, we are accompanied by so many ghosts. I'll buy you out of it if you want. I nod. Okay? Okay. She writes down the item number of the kitchen island with a golf pencil, and we walk over to look at the matching stools. The cushions come in 12 different colors. As we walk, she takes my hand. Her palm is warm. Her grip is comforting. I could pull away if I wanted to. I could break free. But barring that, she won't drop my hand. She won't be the one to let go.
Thank you for joining us for the October Mill City reading. We will see you in November. The weather will not be this nice. Thank you once again to Majors and Quinn. Can we get a round of applause for them for hosting. And one last time for all of our readers. We'll see you in November.